time to finally install the clutch, but we can't do that just yet. As you can see, we got oil leaking, and that's because I don't have the rear main seal on the engine. So every time I come down here to rotate the engine, I got a puddle on the floor. So it's time to address all of that, but first we have some cleaning to do. I'm just using acetone. That's what's in my spray bottle here, and you could easily just use brake parts cleaner if you wanted to. And I'm trying to clean inside of the threads of where the bolt's going to go, as well as around the crankshaft. And again, I'm just trying to get it as clean as possible. The rear main seal went on a little bit tougher than I was expecting, but at the end of the day it did get done. And I guess for a main seal you want it on the tighter side rather than loose and it starts to leak, right? Now this is a Felpro seal. This whole entire build, every single gasket, even the head gasket, is Felpro. And the only reason I'm doing that is, I don't know, for all you people that say, you know, it has to be OEM or nothing, I guess this build is either going to make or break that belief. So if this engine leaks like crazy, you guys will be the first to know. She's tight like a tiger. And no, I didn't forget. Pretty cool, painted green. You have to clean this stuff off. It's just there to protect the metal so it doesn't rust. And I was actually surprised at how easy it comes off. I thought it was going to put up a fight, but nope. Just came right off with acetone. Now I want to put the flywheel back on the engine, and I'm only going to hold it on like with 3 bolts. And I'm going to rotate the engine again and see. Bolt on the flywheel. I need a way to hold the flywheel so it doesn't rotate, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a bracket. And you guys aren't gonna believe me, but in my pile of nuts and bolts over here, yes, I found another bracket, and I promise I'm not stealing brackets off of other people's cars. So here goes the bracket, and this is pretty much the idea right here, and so far it's looking promising. Of course it's going to need a few modifications. It's got a welded on nut on the back, which I need to get rid of. And the bolt that I plan on putting in right here, the hole is just too small, so I'm gonna have to enlarge this hole right here. So I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm just sitting here, I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. You can see where my bracket isn't really going to align with the teeth, so I want to space out the bracket, and I'm going to use these 2 washers. I'm just going to put them right behind where the bolt goes. While I got the bracket here, I'm going to go ahead and set it behind the flywheel's teeth and use that to make a pattern on what I have to grind away and get the right profile basically so that it can engage with the teeth on the flywheel. Take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be outdoors, forever free, you and me. I'd say that turned out pretty well, and the teeth on the bracket actually line up pretty good with the teeth on the flywheel. You can see they're almost centered, which I'm happy with that. The bolts I'm using for the flywheel are 4 pistons bolts, which basically are ARPs. And they're pretty nice, top-notch stuff. As you can see, I'm using some blue Threadlocker because in my opinion, basically when you're dealing with flywheel bolts, put Threadlocker on them. Let's go ahead and torque them down. And I looked on the internet, and even in my manual that I have, and it says to torque these down to 90 foot-pounds. And of course you want to follow like a star pattern, so it's what I did. In the great outdoors. It's been a while since I bought all of these parts, so if I remember correctly, this is the Clutch Masters fx300. So I was ready to install the clutch and the pressure plate, and then I noticed something wrong. Do you notice something? That's right, the dowels on the flywheel are missing. They are vital for aligning the pressure plate and making sure everything is exactly how it should be. So I spent a few days looking online. Maybe I could find some used ones because you can't buy them from the dealer, and I had no luck. So I decided to reach out to Fidanza, which is the company I bought the flywheel from. I bought it brand new, and they said it should have been in the box, but it wasn't. So they shipped me out new dowels, and within 3 days the package arrived. So let's go ahead and press them into the flywheel. I want to keep the flywheel as stable as possible while I'm pressing in these dowels, so I just grabbed some washers to basically shim up the flywheel, and you can see it's a lot better. It doesn't move around like it did before. And I even marked each of the hole where these dowels have to go, because it is easy to make a mistake and press the dowel into the incorrect hole, and that would be very unfortunate because I would imagine it's quite difficult to get these things out. Now the dowel kit did come with this almost like permanent Loctite, so you know the instructions say to install it with the Loctite, so it's what I'm doing. Now I don't know if this is necessary, but I did use some map gas to heat up the flywheel and hopefully expand that metal a little bit, and hopefully that the dowels would press in much easier. And they actually did go in pretty simple. I don't know if this had anything to do with the heating of the flywheel, but I'll take it. They went in super easy. You just got to make sure that you get the shoulder of the dowel below the surface of the flywheel. And now it's time to clean all that Threadlocker off of the crank as well as the bolts. And something interesting that I noticed is after I removed the bolts, all the Threadlocker seems to be at the base, like the head of the bolt. None of it's really in the threads, so that got me thinking, maybe this isn't the correct way to apply Threadlocker, where you just kind of put a line of it on the bolt and run it in. See, my initial thought has always been as you screw in a bolt, it's going to spread out that Threadlocker throughout all the threads, but apparently that's not the case. So it looks like I've been using Threadlocker wrong my whole life. Go figure. As you can see, we're missing our pilot bushing, and that helps to align the clutch. So I ordered a OEM Honda part because I just wanted to make sure it is going to fit. Here I have like a CO installation kit, and of course one size is just too small and the next size up, you guessed it, it's too large. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab both of these adapters. I'm going to start with the smaller one and see if I could get this job done without causing any damage. So before I put on the flywheel, I decided to wait. I'll do it the next day. And I just so happened to be on Instagram, and I came across 4Pistons post about their flywheel bolts. And I was like, I already got a set. So anyways, I started looking through the comments, and I saw that they told someone else on Instagram that their bolts have to be torqued down to 130 foot-pounds, not the OEM 90 foot-pounds. So I was like, oh, okay. So I left them a comment, and they got back to me. They sent me this image right here, and they said this piece of paper should have been included in your box, and it wasn't. When I got my box, it was empty besides the bolts. I'm looking at this whole thing like a blessing in disguise. Okay, so I not only torqued the bolts to 130 foot-pounds now, but I also didn't use any Threadlocker. And I'm gonna trust these guys because they build race engines all day, every day. It's what they do, and they know what they're talking about.
That thing is big, Jay. What is that? We gotta call the aquarium or something, dude.
Initially, I marked all of the bolts to signify that I torqued them, and now I'm marking the bolts in relation to the flywheel, just in case in the future, if I remove all this stuff, I could quickly tell if any of the bolts have started to back themselves out. And here was the friction material. You want to make sure to not touch it with your bare hands, so I am keeping my hands away from the friction material. And as you can see, I'm just using the clutch alignment tool to kind of hold everything in place. And now we could get the pressure plate aligned, and it should fall right onto the dowels. It's gonna take a little bit of fumbling with, but eventually to get there. Now I didn't have any original bolts for the pressure plate, so I had to buy brand new ones, which is perfectly fine. And I looked online, and the torque spec for this says 19 foot-pounds, and even in my book right here, 19 foot-pounds. Now as far as the pressure plate, I did put a little bit of blue Threadlocker on it, because to me 19 foot-pounds just seems really like stupid low. And I almost had to delay all of this because I didn't have a 12.8 mil socket, but then I ended up finding one in my large collection of just like throwaway tools. It's like a 5/16, but it works. And this is what I was talking about earlier as far as the Threadlocker. If you just put it on the threads and expect it to spread by itself, it won't work. So as you can see, I was using my finger to spread the bolts around and get the Threadlocker all around the threads. I hope that makes sense. So I torqued everything in the correct pattern, and at this point it's already torqued. I'm just going around and double checking everything. And now I could finally remove my tool that I made to hold the flywheel. It actually did a really good job. This thing did not budge at all the whole time, even torquing the bolts to 130 foot-pounds. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun making it. If you're interested in seeing a little bit more, my recent video was making a cradle for this engine so I can move it around easily. So if you want, go ahead and check that video out. I'll put a card at the end of this video so you can see it. And like always, guys, thanks for watching.